Greetings, fellow humans. I'm MartianBuu, and today's pocket video is on Charizard EX Moltres EX, but with an Arcanine EX line as a way to be able to attack faster into fast decks like Pikachu EX. Arcanine EX conveniently hits for 120 damage, which is enough to knock out Pikachu EX, and it's also stage 1, so it can get going a lot faster for 1 less energy. This deck was piloted to a top 5 finish at a recent 1600 player tournament, so I was really interested and wanted to try it out. I copied the list precisely, so I haven't made any alterations. Having played it, if I was going to change it, I would take out the red card and the potion for either 2 Giovanni or a Giovanni and the second Sabrina. Arcanine EX only being able to hit for 120 means it's pretty useless in situations where you're up against like Starmie EX or you have to hit a Zapdos. Feeling limited to just the 120 damage makes it feel like if you're in a position where you're stuck powering up Growlithe and not Charmander, what you can do with the Arcanine is pretty limited. You'll notice that this list is running a single Growlithe and 2 Arcanine EX. That's because you don't really want to start with Growlithe in most situations. It's mostly just there for Pikachu EX, and you're more likely to find a basic due to Pokeball. So it helps you to Pokeball into Moltres and Charmander for most matchups, but you are more likely to find a Growlithe than you are an Arcanine because you do have a card that draws basics specifically. So by including 2 of the Arcanine EX, you're that much more likely to be able to find the evolution in situations where you want to be attacking with Arcanine. So yeah, if you are a Charizard EX enjoyer and are having some trouble with Pikachu EX, this is an interesting option. In my games, I found that Charizard EX still does almost all of the heavy lifting, so I can't tell you whether I feel like this is a superior list or not, but it was fun to try something different. I hope you enjoy the games, and thank you so much for watching. Okay, well, this is a pretty good start. So we get to have the Moltres active, Charmander on the bench, Gucci. They Sabrina me turn 1, I'll just be sad about it. Mirror? Rude. So rude, chat, that they would do that to me. I don't know if it's that rude. Mirror is probably a good matchup because we're going second. Do you guys like the pretty cards for streaming more, or do you like the regular cards for streaming more? I feel like the regular cards are easier to read, so they're better. They're easier to read and easier to distinguish. But it's a full-on mirror, they have the same like deck list they're trying out. Okay. Oh. Pretty cards are pretty, but I'm a bit more of a casual player. You know the cards so you don't have an opinion? Pretty cards, but I like pretty cards in general. Interesting. I've like almost entirely lost interest in pretty card artwork for digital, so I don't know. I still have just as much of a pretty card like funsies for like paper, but I guess my definition of what card I like has changed a little bit, because it used to be I really just liked the max rarity cards the most. But now I like the card that I like the best, and a lot of the time it's the non-pretty card for the paper card game. Like if an illustration rare has the Pokemon kind of lost somewhere in the artwork, I don't really like that illustration rare so much. Like I'd rather have an EX like this where the Pokemon is very clear and the text is very clear than like an artwork where you can't even tell unless you like stare at it a bit that it's even an EX, you know what I mean? Maybe it's hard to tell. Because not everyone who plays this plays the casual, like the paper cards. In paper I like good art, but not in foil. I play Magic. You know what's funny? I used to like foil and now I don't. I just suddenly stopped liking it. It's so strange. I used to be all about foil. But yeah, the I don't have 2 Sabrinas even in this deck, right? So there's no real use in me charging Moltres up to go after the Charmander now that I think about it. But yeah, so like in Magic, you almost always have the option to have a foil-free deck. So I've been mostly buying non-foil cards for Magic lately. But in Pokemon, you can't have that option. So I tend to gravitate towards foil for the sake of my decks being the same. You just use clear wrap now instead. Oh, instead of foil? Yeah, exactly. Chat, did we win the video game? We found our stage 2 first. Guess my opponent gets to lose. I guess they gets to lose, chat. Womp womp. Bonk. The Fighting Iron Hands, alright. Yeah, okay, so I think the illustration art for some of the cards is really cool to like collect. I'm not much of a collector for collector's sake, to be honest. I like to collect cards that like I like to have cards I can play with. There are very few cards I want to own just because they're pretty. But yeah, if I was a collector, I'd appreciate having some of those like silly ones like the Iron Hands just to have it. But as far as playing it in a deck, I prefer, you know, cards that are easy to distinguish what's going on, you know, mechanically. All right, we are up against the water deck again. So if we draw something, I don't know what to do here, chat, other than be sad. Hopefully all they do is pass and I can red card them for -2. Or they can Professor's Research, so I can red card them for -3. And don't play any basics or anything, just pass. You're fine. You don't need any of those cards. Stop. At least don't play anything else. Sick. All right. Give him the old -2. Hey, we drew an evolution. Look at that. This deck also doesn't have any Giovanni in it, so I feel like Arcanine is just straight up not very good against this deck. Heads. Heads, cool. People have started using the code system to make alternative game modes. If you search with code no EX, you'll face mostly people doing the same. Oh, that's cute. You can queue into like random friendlies? How's that work? Waiting for opponent. Okay. I guess what I'm gonna do is Sabrina. Sounds kind of annoying for them. I see. How do I feel about that? This is dealing 20 damage to itself. The Starmie will not be knocking me out in one hit, which is nice. Alright, so theoretically, my opponent will have to sit there and let me knock out their Articuno. And then they can come up and knock out my Arcanine EX and make me sad. So it'd be nice if we hit a potion. Private match search via your code. Let's top deck a Charmander? Would that even be good? Not really. Maybe I've made a mistake. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here, frankly. I feel like I don't want to, like, I feel like I'm exposing myself to just losing to, instantly losing to a Sabrina if I knock the Articuno out this turn. I think you're just building Moltres to attack here. I think my plan is to set up the Charizard to slash first. Yeah, I think this is gonna work out. Like, we're just reverting to the Charizard game plan now that they've done this. It's okay if they knock that out. I'll just Charizard them 2 turns in a row. And then I won't have an Arcanine that dies in one hit to everything they do. So I won't lose by points that way. Neat. Only needed 1 heads there. Cool. Not really into Pokemon, but I will stay for the Marshy. Well, I appreciate that. Who's the best looking streamer here? Martian or Martian? Probably Martian. Is there a TCG term for when your hand is complete bunk? You bricked. Alright, now we just win. Now we just win, chat. It was a little sketchy there for a second, but we drew the Charizard. I know this Arcanine is in here for, like, Pikachu, right? So I'm not gonna, like, judge it too harshly yet. I suppose I should have used that Pokeball just to thin my deck. That was the term you couldn't remember. Yep. Chat, I should have thinned my deck, I guess. There's one more Charmander to find. Pasior, thank you so much for the 34 months of Prime. I know Hearthstone stinks at the moment, but Pokemon stinks harder. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Kind of having fun in both myself right now. But thank you so much for the 34 months, my friend. I really appreciate it. Burr, burr, burr. All they need to, like, make me spam Pokemon TCG Pocket is to add ranked mode. The fact that they don't have a ranked mode is, like, lately, if I'm not streaming, I just pop in to do my packs and then pop back out. Going second, you love to see it. You love to see it, chat. All right, we have Moltres and a Growlithe, as Morgan Freeman would say. You're fine, Pasior. I edit when I don't want to say something. You were fine to say that. But sometimes I do use that word. Just not in the mood. someone in chat said sucks, and when I read it out, I subbed in the word stinks. Now you've heard me say sucks, and now you've heard me say it again. So mission accomplished, I guess. My opponent is playing Arbok, Weezing, presumably, with the Grimer in it. The 3 retreat cost Grimer. The 3 retreat cost Muck. That sucks, TBH. Real. Real and true. Man, that snake just bit me. What if I just, like, leave them with an active Muck for the rest of time? What then? Man, I'm really missing the Giovanni. I think now that there's an Arcanine in here, we definitely want a Giovanni. Maybe what I would do is, like, if I was gonna edit this list, I wanted to just run the list as is without making any edits to it. Because this deck won a really big, no, it didn't win, it just placed really high in a really big tournament recently. And so I just wanted to try it as it was, but maybe, so it has a potion. I don't like running just one potion. I think that's awkward. I think if you're gonna run potion, you run 2. And I don't like red card. Red card is doo-doo. So it has one of each of those. So maybe I would cut them for a Giovanni and the second Sabrina. Now that we have a Pokemon in the deck that actually values Giovanni. Because, like, there are a lot of Pokemon where getting to 130 matters. Huh? Uh-oh. Yeah, they saw the writing on the wall, I guess. When I make a Pokemon deck, I feel like I add 12 or 14 cards I want, and then I just throw in some bad cards and hope I don't draw them. Yeah, another set will help with that a lot. Fingers crossed we get one soon. They said December is a mini set, right? Easiest tails of my opponent's whole life. Easiest tails they've ever seen. Look at that. Oh my goodness. What a player skill issue. They're so bad at this game. You're supposed to roll heads. Watch this. Chat, this is how you do it. Alright. This is how you do it. Better off than them. Alright, 2 heads and then a tails. That's pretty good. They should have gotten 2 heads and then a tails like I did. I wasn't talented enough to get all 3 heads. Hate to see it. More 3 tails? More 1 tails? I swear, like, I see my opponents brick with Misty way more often than I ever see them. Like, I don't have that negative correlation. You know how, like, when something can go wrong and it goes wrong sometimes, you just kind of, like, over assume, like, the negatives stick out in your mind and you think that you get more unlucky than you do. I uniquely don't have that for my opponents playing Misty. My opponents always just brick with them. Like, what are they thinking? Get heads. Skill issue moment by the opponent. I know, right? Misty is so much worse than Moltres. It really is. It really is. I'm kind of like, I remember when I was playing, when I was temporarily a New Zealander to play during the month before this came out. I remember when I was playing thinking, like, before this goes live, if they were going to change anything, they should change Misty and Moltres. And now they're just both so fine to me. Like, I don't really care about either of them as far as like wanting a change. Well, I'm gonna kill that thing before it becomes something I can't kill. And then I'm hopefully gonna Professor's Research into a Charizard to finish off that Articuno. And we're gonna call it a day. You had someone roll 9 heads yesterday. I've had stuff like that before. I've also had plenty of times where my opponent just rolls tails. And then their deck sucks. We just need like a good Onyx or Golem. Like a really good one. I think Onyx and Golem are both kind of decent. But we need a good one of them. Or a Steelix that has a lot of colorless energy requirements to make Brock work. Because like, Brock is a better card than Misty is. It just doesn't hit enough Pokemon. Whereas Misty is a trash card that hits everything. Misty is gonna fall off too once we get more stuff, I bet. Like, once we get more cards, more like consistent cards, people are never gonna play Misty again. They're gonna be like, why would I play this thing that always bricks when I could play something that doesn't always bricks? That's how it works in the TCG. In the TCG, like in the paper TCG, rather. When there are a ton of flippy cards, but they rarely see play. Like, they see play sometimes. The one that sees play right now is Pokemon Catcher, and it's because decks draw so much that they can afford to run something with slight variance. And you want something that pulls stuff off the bench that doesn't require you to use your supporter, and also that can be drawn with a card like Pokestop. Pokestop only draws items, so like we have a flippy card that's kind of meta, but we usually don't. Usually cards that require coin flips don't end up seeing any play. And I think Misty will probably be the same way. It's just the card quality is so low on average right now. Am I actually going to lose this game, now that I think about it? I should have sent up the Charmeleon to die and then evolved the Arcanine, because now they can Sabrina me again. All right, so I'll red card them and hope I didn't just draw them into the other Sabrina. That's really funny. Except it doesn't really matter, right? If they Sabrina me, good for them. I'll just come up and finish them off with the Moltres the turn after. Alright. To that end, I could have benched a Charmander, huh? Could have benched Charmander so I didn't have to give up the Charizard. But like, I don't think it mattered at that point. Would the TCG be better if the point system worked like it did in Pocket? Maybe, yeah. Because then things wouldn't get locked in the prizes. It's just, what's nice about the prize system in paper is it means there's one less marker you have to keep track of. Like, I like it when you design a card game so that the cards themselves can keep track of things. Like, we're kind of hosed with damage counters, but like, you know, status conditions were kept track of by which way you tilted your card for the most part. So if you get rid of the prize system in favor of a point system, that's one less thing that's just kept track of by the cards themselves. Opponent is killing me over there. You know what else is killing me is Charizard. What's going on with that? They cannot Blizzard me, so it's fine. They cannot Blizzard me. Hammer's not meta anymore. Like, Iron Thorns still runs Crushing Hammer, but that's one deck that doesn't see a lot of play. So it's not like, there are other coin flips too, but they're like barely played. Catcher is played in a few decks, which is why I named it specifically. And like, there's a Alolan Executor EX that flips a coin. If heads, it knocks out the basic active. If tails, it knocks out a basic on the bench. That people are starting to kind of explore in Regigigas. Or Regidrago, rather. But really? Chat, am I going to lose? Huh. Oh my goodness. So I think, yeah, okay. My last, no, it's 2 Charizards and what? I thought I had another Professor's Research, but it's pretty funny. Like, I might lose this game. I basically need them not to Sabrina me this coming turn. I could send up this and... Okay, so now there's something that if they Sabrina me, I'll be fine. But my goodness. What's going on with this, chat? Have you heard about in the EX list community format? I've heard about that just now. I don't think, like, I don't really trust my opponents to, like, queue that without an EX. And, like, I'm not really ready to make content for a Fringe format. But, like, if it ends up being really popular, I'd play it, because I think no EXs would be better. But I would like it much better if they just added an EX-less queue. That'd be really cool, actually. I'd love to try that. Would Weezing be the nuts? Or is Weezing only good in a high... I bet it's still the nuts. I bet Weezing's still really good. I've had pretty decent results, but yeah, the Fringe part is super valid. Alright. So, 2 out of 3 chance for a Charizard. And we'll just retreat into the Moltres that doesn't die otherwise. Thank goodness. Thank you for showing up finally, Charizard. My goodness. I don't know what you're trying to pull over there, friend. Hilarious. Starting Moltres, not bad. I have not had to retreat out a Pokemon yet. Let's get a basic. That isn't Moltres. Preferably Charmander. Show me the Charmander. Neat. I guess I'll bench this. We have Charmeleon and Charizard in hand, which I think is pretty good. I think that's pretty good, chat. I'm into it. Also, they started Ralts, which is not great for them. Mewtwo? Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought the Mewtwo was coming? Certainly not me. Boop. Wow. All right, we're most of the way there. As long as, I mean, like, okay, so if the Ralts stays active as a Ralts this coming turn, all I do is come up and slash it with the Charizard this turn, right? Oh, okay, never mind. What's the general game plan against Mewtwo EX deck? Assemble a Charizard really fast and then sweep them. Well, that red card was devastating for me, chat. I'll give it that much. They have an X speed and a Gardevoir. They might have shifted the tides with that red card. But maybe they don't have either. Wouldn't that be novel? Wouldn't that be novel, chat? Alright, they do have the Gardevoir. Alright, so no X speed, and they're gonna ram. I feel like you retreat there, frankly. I feel like that's the play. Do I Should I play that Arcanine? No, right? Guess the reason would be to play around another red card. Yeah, and like it's just as likely to get wrecked as the thing. We are like super relying on a Charizard top deck with this. I forget. Okay, so we've used both Professor's Research. It really is just a 1/3 chance to draw Charizard, and then we win. If all they have is Gardevoir on the bench, we could Sabrina to buy a turn, right? Because they can't retreat the Gardevoir and also power up the Mewtwo. I guess if they had next speed, they could. So let's just go ahead and top deck a Charizard and then call it a day. All right, they don't call him the best to ever do it for nothing. Aw, people always concede before I Crimson Storm. It's so rude. I clearly want to play my Crimson Storm. Going first, hate to see it. Starting with Charmander, not my favorite. So we have Professor's Research and an X speed. We're up against an interesting version of the Lightning deck. Maybe there's some Pikachu EX in here. Ooh. Alright, everything's kind of coming together, chat. Look at this. Excuse me. I guess red card exists, so I'll play the X speed now. I was otherwise thinking like maybe I'll save it until next turn, just so I don't have to do it again in case of Sabrina, but I think first turn red card is more of a threat. More of a spaghetti. Tail Whap. I guess it would have been in the Moltres' best interest, actually, now that I think about it. So the evolve form, does it do 2 for 40 and if head's 80 or if head's 60? It's if head's 80, right? So this saves me from getting knocked. Do we know when the new packs are dropping? I heard that we're getting some kind of new thing in December, but I don't know how true anything I've ever heard is, so I'm expecting to see something in December. I think it might be a mini set, and then January or February is when we're gonna get a new like full set, but like grain of salt on that info, I'm not 100% sure. All right. Okay, so yeah, it is if head's 80. I don't think it mattered too much. I guess a heads meant that they could Zeb Strike it whenever they want, which isn't great. Hey, Charizard. We're just gonna do this the old-fashioned way, I guess. Alright, give me a couple of heads, Moltres. Set up the Charizard to sweep. Alright, that was pretty good, Moltres, thank you. You have my permission to die. Any guesses to what the new cards would be? I could speculate wildly. So for a mini set, the first set has a focus on Gen 1. They're not all Gen 1 Pokemon, as evidenced by my opponent's deck, but there's a big focus on Gen 1. So I would assume the mini set would relate to Gen 1, and the next set would focus on Gen 2. So what could they do for Gen 1 as far as focusing on that? Well, it'd be cool if we got Megas. Megas are coming back to the video game soon, so I could see them, you know, putting Megas into the card game. Maybe they could do like Mega Charizard, Mega Mewtwo, Mega something else. I don't know. But yeah, that's speculating wildly. All right. That is exactly what I would guess too. Well, very good. I'm hoping that like we get Steelix to go with. See, there's the Pokemon that Arcanine is supposed to target. It's that Pikachu right there. I don't know about this Arcanine without a Giovanni. I feel like it's too narrow. But like, it was a tournament deck, right? So in a tournament, half your field is going to be Pikachu. So I think it kind of makes sense. It's just on ladder, it's who knows what's going to happen. Charizard is so ridiculous once you get it powered up. It has all the HP and it knocks out everything in one hit. So it's like nothing you can do at this point. You have to get it before it gets going. I am inevitable. I am Charizard. Alright, they got this. They're way ahead. I'll hit the Pikachu EX and its static ability will paralyze me, but it won't matter because they'll get knocked out anyway. You guys remember the static ability from the Game Boy? Giovanni, not the dreaded 70 damage. Don't do it to me. Whatever will I do? Alright, we'll be a pal. We'll red card them. Alright. Now they can have some more cards. And boop. And that, yeah. I don't know, the Arcanine wasn't handy in any of those games, was it? It was like, you know, we just kind of fell back on the Charizard. It really is just a Pikachu EX tech. So, there you go.